So how does this actually look today? How does it look in action? So let's talk a little bit more about public education, as I said earlier. So if you're talking about it from a political perspective, right? So you're saying, well, post-Reconstruction, you have this political policy called separate but equal. Technically not racist because it's saying, hey, it should be equal. That's the whole point of separate but equal. Like we're saying it should be exactly the same. But it's built upon the ideologies from school perspective that BIPOC folks are not as intelligent and about protecting white women virtue. That often gets looped in there with regards to why we need to keep black folks away, particularly black men away. It's because of the ways in which black men can threaten white women's virtue. This idea that black men are hypersexualized and want to take white women, which is a whole nother topic we're going to continue to talk about as we move forward. Economically, what that does is that it makes it so BIPOC schools are underfunded, but it also maintains a low skill working class that's able to continue doing the kind of labor work that they were doing while they were slaves, right? So you keep people in the South, you keep them in these particular kind of fields if they can't move up in the world. You could talk about maybe integration. You have civil rights, you have Brown versus Board saying, okay, this is integration, so things should be better. Well, from an ideological perspective, we still did this with today in terms of our cultures. Schools with higher percentages of BIPOC folks are not understood to be quote unquote good schools. Because what do we really mean by good schools? It's a very loaded word, but all of you who have children, or all of you who have friends who have children, know what I mean when I talk about quote unquote good schools. What do we really mean when we say a school is good and a school isn't? Is it just test scores, right? Or is it the way you feel when you're in that space, right? Is it and what helps you determine, what helps you understand and interpret how you feel while you're in a particular kind of school? And why is it that all the good schools happen to be schools that are predominantly white? Right. So these are good ideological questions to help us wrestle with. So how that impacts us economically is the majority of BIPOC schools are underfunded. And again, it maintains a working class. Right. And so now, if we are to move past, say, let's not start in the political, let's start with the ideological and move to housing. Right. So ideologically, we can say, we have Proposition 98. I'm sorry, ideologically, you can say with housing, good neighborhoods are predominantly white and because they have the same values as we do. So we see this move to the suburbs and you see President Trump trafficking in kind of the language of suburbia, saying, oh, they're going to ruin the suburbs. So clearly this is kind of a loaded term. We're talking about the ideologies or the idea of what the suburbs is. And again, we talked about redlining, saying that certain neighborhoods are valued over others, essentially by the racial makeup. Now, the economic impact of that is you have Black folks that suffer from predatory lending because they couldn't get loans from banks because banks would say, well, this isn't a good neighborhood. It's not a good investment. And so because of that, you take money from loan sharks and then you don't end up actually making as much money in your house because it's not as good property value. So that leaves little to no generational wealth. Right? Not only do you have a house that you can't really sell or do anything with, you actually, if you give it to your children, they may not want it because it's not really in a neighborhood they want to be in anymore, or it doesn't have a lot of economic value. This is a problem when you consider that most of the generational wealth developed in America, right, and passed down from generation to generation comes with land and land ownership. Politically, what this does is confines BIPOC's political power to specific areas, right? So it limits democratic representation because you keep folks in small spaces. So they're not as diffused and spread out and actually can begin to change the politics of the country. So this is how all these things work together in a matrix, right? It's not one, then it doesn't actually happen in a way where it's like, well, this happened. It's not linear. I guess that's the whole point of this image, right? It works in a circle and they all reinforce each other, right? They all add and build upon each other. And for us, this is how our definition of racism really helps us kind of articulate and give an understanding of what it is that we see every day.